Clapping start. I mean,
That's cool. That's for the final.
Finale. Need to wash my hands.
che, re quiero hacerlo. Man, eso-
Let's go.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Me llamo Jordy y estoy haciendo mi pasantía en Valencia, España. So I'm gonna go through the questions. Why should somebody choose for an internship abroad? First of all, it's gonna be a lifetime experience. You get to meet new people, you get to do stuff you wouldn't do at home. You're probably in a different culture, you learn a new language depending on where you go. For me personally, that's of course Spanish. It's also very good for your self-development, I think, because honestly, you just, as I said, you come into a different environment. You have to do things on your own. You're much more dependent of yourself, and so yeah, that's generally what I think. You also, by meeting people, you get international contacts that maybe could be useful for your work life later. And actually, if you do an internship at a company abroad, you might actually end up working there if they give you the option to. Okay, so why would I not recommend it? Some people would probably have a hard time with missing their family or their home, but I think that's just something you have to be willing to risk, or not actually really risk, but by meeting new people, you like create a new family here. And as I also said, you just make contacts for the rest of your life. So, and if you come back to your country, eventually you're able to go back to your normal life too, if you desire to. Also, why I would not recommend it, possibly, I have friends here who study at the university, and their project is not the best one. It really depends on what, like that's especially for studying then, it really depends on what university you choose or what program it is. But for an internship, I would really suggest you being careful with the company you choose. For me personally, it turned out great. Actually, it was the first company I contacted. We had video conversations, we just got to know each other a bit, and that's how you kind of build up a connection and you feel right, and then if you feel that, you can go to the next step and actually like setting things up that you can go there. Okay, then what is the experience that you remember the most? I would probably say the moment when you arrive, because it's a feeling that you cannot really describe. You arrive somewhere where you know, at least in my situation, I knew nobody. So the first day and probably also the first 2 weeks are really weird sometimes, but you get to know people so quickly. I didn't even imagine that would go so quickly. During the first week, I probably already got to know 20 new people. So I think if you really want to do it, you should just not think about it too much and not worry about it.
Yeah, just wait.
Okay, was it what you expected it to be, or wasn't it, and why? Personally, I think it's best to go without any expectations, because if you expect too much, maybe you might end up being disappointed quicker. I didn't really know what to expect because everything was totally new for me, and I guess that would be the same case for everybody that goes on an internship abroad or study abroad. Then also the Corona crisis, about which I'm gonna talk in the next question. And honestly, I also didn't expect me getting to know people so quickly. I'm a social person, but you kind of go over your own limits at some point, because as I said in the previous question, you just arrive here and the first moment you just go sit down and then you think, well, what now? What's next? But it's also just an experience you have and that you'll never forget and that you can learn from for your next experiences. Then how did Corona influence your internship? Of course, we got quarantined. Spain has been through one of the... Okay, how do you say this? Spain has had one of the most strict quarantines all over the world. We were only allowed to go outside to get groceries or to go to the pharmacy, and that is hard both physically and mentally. Of course, there's the working from home part then, for me personally, because I'm doing an internship. It does not always go as planned, because by the feeling you have being home, or the feeling you develop being home the whole time, can get rough sometimes, but if you just focus to your job and to your work, you can still do it. I mean, working from home is always possible. At some point, I also got at some point, I also seriously started doubting whether I should stay or not, because you just get influenced from all sides. My parents really wanted me to go home, obviously. Also my teachers recommended me to go home, and at some point I was really going to go home, but then I realized if I go home now, I'm probably not going to be able to come back. So now I'm really glad I stayed, because since some days we are able to go outside again for a short period of time, which already feels great. It's a world of difference. Then if you could do it again, what would you do differently? Well, maybe it's a good thing to really learn the language beforehand. I had some knowledge, but it's always useful when you come into a situation where you have to talk with people that you can really... Understanding is one thing, but the talking back part is the hardest one. So also some people really recommended me to learn the language beforehand, and I did not really do as much as I should have done. But honestly, also when you are here, you just pick the language up pretty quickly. So that's also a positive thing, especially if you hang around with locals and Spanish-speaking people. Do you have anything more to tell to people who want to go on the same experience? Well, first of all, honestly, everything that's going to happen will depend on the location you go to. For me, of course, personally in Spain, you have the factor that most of the time you have good weather. Personally, that feels good mentally. I have a really good place to do my internship. My boss is great. My colleagues are great. Personally, I would also say, if you choose an internship, don't just go for the big names, but start, as I said, video calling with the people there, and if you feel the connection, you're gonna know that you belong there. And also, if you doubt to do it, just do it, because honestly, I was never really sure I wanted to do it, and I've always had the feeling that I wanted to go abroad, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to do the internship abroad. I just applied for it. At some point, then I was allowed to do it. I was admitted. And that's just when you start getting into the flow and you're like, oh, okay, I can actually do it. Then you start looking for a place to stay, you start looking for your internship, and then just before you know it, you end up in the country you want to be, and everything just turns out great. Vale. Should I say something more? Also, if you go on an internship abroad, or Erasmus in general, in most of the popular places, there's probably going to be Erasmus organizations. So if you're afraid of not meeting people quickly, you can always go to these organizations. They organize social activities.
Yeah, they do.
Social
Reunions
activities.
and stuff.
Hikes, walks, city tours and stuff. You can, if you're afraid to not meet people quickly, you can always go to these activities. They will, or at least in my experience, the people there will always like get you into the group. And also in my experience, another reason why you don't have to be afraid to meet people is all the people that go in Erasmus, I feel like they have the same mindset. They're all social, they're all willing to meet new people, willing to experience new things, and you should just, in my case, first of all, it's important that my internship goes well, but next to that, you just need to have a good cultural experience, make new friends, make memories that you will probably never forget, because this is something unique. Also, if you just have a good friend group at home, you don't have to be afraid to lose contact with them, because even though you don't text them or hear them every day, you know that they're just gonna be there for you when you go back, and everything's just gonna be the way it was. Certainly your life is gonna change if you do an Erasmus, because as I said multiple times already, the experience is just unique, and all the things you learn from it, you'll just carry them with you for the rest of your life. And overall, I have zero reasons why I would not recommend doing it. So if you want to do it, just do it.